the podcast nowhere near Hollywood. It's Afternoon Coffee with Mike and Tim.
Hey, that was good. What I was thinking was maybe welcome to the Afternoon Coffee Podcast with Mike and Tim.
Nice try, boys, but this is how it should sound. This is the Afternoon Coffee Podcast with Mike and Tim.
Thanks, Heather, and welcome to Afternoon Coffee with Mike and Tim. This is part 2 of our interview with Jim McCarthy. A lot of fun as always. Here we go. Enjoy. You know, there's a TV show out called, it's on Nat Geo. It's called Brain Games. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's great for your kids. I know you got young kids, but my wife and I we love it. It's Keegan-Michael Key is the host of it, and of this year anyway. But it talks about why your brain does what it does and how the differences sometimes between male and female. And it's incredible that there's a reason why we can't remember names. And there's a reason, there's tricks and they actually have tricks on there to help you kind of, the last show anyway, had tricks to remember names and remember patterns and how to do all that stuff. And it's like, it's just value for anybody in any walk of life. It's really, and it's entertaining as all get out. I love it. So
my technique was not as clever as that. I would make a copy of their driver's license and fold it in such a way that I could reach into my pocket, pull it out, and go, okay, that's what their name was.
That's
that
good.
was awful. So
hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And thank you for your answer on that, and giving back. And I believe there should be a 10% rule. I mean, there is in church and there is in other places, and that is give back some. You can't give away everything, and I understand that, and I get it. But give some. In other words, give a helping hand to pull someone up, because as I've told Mike here, that in the voiceover industry, my voice may be just perfect for something, where Mike, his voice is better for a gig than mine would be, or Jim McCarthy. I mean, somebody may want that particular voice. And so it's not a thing of putting someone down, or it's lifting people up. And if I can't do that in this industry, then I'm out. I want to help others. I mean, Mike knows that. Recently, there's been a situation there where I was able to, show Mike's name to someone as well. I mean, it's not about me. God in His mercy and His grace will get us these jobs if it's meant to be.
Right. Exactly. And that's another thing that actually Rich talks about too, is, even though he's quite an established drummer, he may work with a producer who just favors another guy's playing. And Rich is like, dude, I'm good with that. How else can I help you on the track? And be like, you know what? While he'll handle the heavy lifting, I'd love to have you come in and shake his tambourine and maybe just lay down some percussion. And Rich is like, I am not above that. After all this time and doing what he does with who he does it, he is not above that at all. And that's a great attitude to have.
It's really good. It's kind of neat that his name has got Rich in it. There was a Buddy Rich, a famous drummer. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Buddy Rich?
Oh,
yeah. I just bought an album at McKay's the other day. So, and I've got a micro station, I run out of my studio, and it's online. And of course I have it airwave, but it's really small, but I'm playing vinyl and from the 30s and 40s. But anyway, man, this visit has been very informative. We appreciate you being on our show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, I didn't know we were ending.
No, we're not. Mike, what you got, Mike? Mike's got something else, man. Mike wants to ask you a question.
I got a list of stuff I'm going through here.
Yeah.
On your website, you've got a long list of awards that you've received while you're in radio. It's
right.
Quite lengthy. What was probably your most memorable? What was the one you're most proud of, maybe? Anyway, your website is jimmccarthyvoiceovers.com. It's laid out really, really nicely. I really like your website.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Thank you. It's, I would say the Addy Award. I think I did that in 06 or 07. And that was for a spot that I wrote and produced for a local Chevy dealer, of all things. And so winning an Addy was kind of a highlight for me. I really enjoyed that one.
I can imagine.
And I think that's on there.
Yeah, there's probably 12 or 13 on there. Yeah. Now you specialize in a thing, one of your specialties. I know you're a jack of all trades and actually you master some of them, which goes against the phrase completely. But you do specialize in a thing called radio imaging. Can you explain exactly what that is to people?
Radio imaging are the pieces of audio that you hear in between songs on the radio. So the identifiers that tell you what radio station you're listening to. And throughout the generations, they started out very simply with just a deep voice guy, and then they got really production heavy in the late 90s and early 2000s as digital audio workstations became prevalent. And that's a bulk of what I did for radio stations throughout my career, in addition to holding down commercial production. So I just enjoyed being the guy in the room, that, you know, the fishbowl, producing stuff, being the mad scientist.
Yeah, that's good.
And the imaging is just kind of like you hit and you get out, but you know it's still you, and you don't have to have all the attention. That's what I like about it. I'm involved with a guy in Great Britain that I do radio show intros and podcast intros and everything with him, and it's not a huge paying thing, but that just seems like something I was kind of built for. Whether my vocal cords are built for it, I don't know, but it's something I really enjoy. So yeah, that's fantastic.
Voicing it?
Yeah.
So he
does the production end of it, and he just kind of sends me the scripts. I get 4 or 5 a week, and I lay them down, give him a couple of takes of each one, send it back to him, and PayPal dings me. So yeah, it's great.
It's always nice when somebody else produces your voice, because you don't have to. I find it's very nice, at least.
You've got some stuff on your YouTube channel where you talk about how you produce commercials and different things, and that's just fascinating to watch how you do that. So
there's a skill to that.
Thank you.
For sure.
Well, hopefully after 20 years of doing it, I'm somewhat skilled.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that goes without saying then.
I hope. I just did one the other day, and it was funny because I put my phone camera up on a tripod, literally just pointed at my computer screens, and it was the laziest way to do a tutorial video, because I think Will Stouff, Mike.
Yeah.
He
lives in South Georgia.
Fiverr. Yeah. He's like, you really need to do a video on how you produce stuff, and I'm going, yeah, I know, I got to get around to it. But, and literally I'm like, let me just put my phone up and I'll kind of walk people through it. It'll be like a 20-minute video and describe what I'm doing and my thought processes. And if it's of value to anybody, then great. If not, then great. But it was possibly the laziest way to go about it. And I even admitted that in the video. I'm going, I'm sorry. I know I'm capable of much better video than this, but here.
For what it's worth.
Yeah.
So.
Now, we're going to back up just a minute. You and your family ended up in a Josh Turner video. We're going back to country music now. How in the world did that happen?
We that was just by circumstance. I mean, I came across something on Craigslist, because I would actually browse for voiceover jobs on Craigslist locally, and every now and then you'd find somebody who's looking for somebody, and I would hit them up, and I came across just a listing saying, hey, we're looking for young families to be in a music video for Josh Turner. I looked into it, submitted our stuff, told my wife, hey, if this works out, it'd be kind of cool. And lo and behold, I got an email saying, hey, be at this place at this time, and we'll be shooting here. And we showed up, and that was that. And
was that a paid thing, or was that just something?
We did get paid for it, a whopping $50. It bought us lunch that day.
See, it's all these little, it's the small things all add up. And I think Will would agree with that. Yeah.
Hey, we made our impression on country music history for 5 seconds in a Josh Turner video.
Tremendous. So we know you're involved in podcasts. So tell us about your podcast, and also what other podcast, if any, are you involved in?
Well, the podcasting thing, because of the radio background, has really started taking off recently. I'm becoming known as the podcast guy in and around Nashville, because just that's what I've done. A podcast to me is a radio show. So I have my own, which is now being neglected because I'm producing so many of other people's podcasts, which is fine because they pay me for that. I do the Rich Redmond podcast, producing that. I do a podcast called The Talk of Music City Real Estate with a local mortgage originator and a mortgage broker and real estate broker named Monty Moore and Carrie Ann Sear. I'm working on another podcast for, it's called Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a group of guys who are doing like active shooter defense training classes and security systems and things of that nature. And a lot of real estate interest. A lot of people in real estate are wanting to get into their podcast. Last week, I had two appointments with some real estate people that want to start their own podcast. So it's kind of becoming its own animal at this point for me. So that's one of the things I preach to new voiceover talent is that, learn how to diversify your skill sets, and because you may have to do that until you can solely depend on voiceover if that day ever comes. But it's always good to have that, multiple eggs in one basket kind of thing, or multiple eggs in different baskets rather. So that's kind of a big offering I can bring to the table, especially now that podcasting has become such a huge thing.
Now, with the real estate people, did you approach them or did they call you?
Well, initially the real estate show that I do is based on a relationship with Monty. I've done a lot of video work for him over the years, and he had mentioned to me that he had done a lot of stuff for television, doing like a brokered time, and he wanted to bring that over to a radio station. So he said, "Hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. Carrie Ann wants to be in on it with me. What can you suggest?" So we had a conversation. I said, I said, what you're doing is brokered time. It's a one and done type of situation, meaning that once it airs, it kind of goes away unless you repurpose it for something else, which is something I would strongly recommend that you do. Turn it into a podcast. So that's where I came in. Oddly enough, they told me a year after the show started getting underway that 2 months into its life, they were thinking, well, or initially they figured that they could just, do it without me after 2 months. And I said, well, isn't that funny? Because here we are now. You don't even need the radio station, like I said. I said, because now they're off the radio station and we're just doing it solely as a podcast. So what's that say about radio?
It's going. Yeah.
So that's how that started. But, and a lot of it, as far as getting to the real estate aspect of it, comes down to relationships. And it's something that I talk about with voiceover talent, with people in the radio business who just will flame a lowball client online or to their friends, and they think it's, being kept confidential. I see it every day where somebody's complaining about a lowball client. Now I get it that they're out there and that they're generally a pain in the butt. But I'm like, the economy is always not going to be this good, guys. It's nice to have those lowball, what I call hamburger clients, that will help you weather those storms. And with all the talent that's onboarding into this industry, you kind of need those hamburger clients and work those relationships, because it's not just about doing that job. It's about who they know and who they can, pass you off to. How Rich Redmond came to town. He was okay with sitting in for $40 on a night because he understood the exposure he was getting and how he could work a room.
Yeah.
This will get me in front of, down on Broadway. I'll be able to show my craft, and you never know who's in the audience. Okay. With these hamburger clients, if you treat them the right way and you make it them-centric, you never know who they know. They may know the person that comes to the table and is a steak client. Okay. And so I see it every day where they completely destroy opportunities. It's good for the people who get it. So.
Oh yeah.
And everybody likes to work with people that are nice and they enjoy being around, and that just kind of goes without saying. If you're truly a nice person, I mean, people will find you sometimes,
They will overlook your mistakes and your lack of skill when it comes to your attitude. Absolutely.
I like that.
Someone will rather work. Yeah. Someone will rather work. If you're a good hang on a bus, getting back to, Rich and his stuff, he even talks about that too. It's like, look, I'd rather play with somebody who's kind of who's a good hang on a bus than somebody who's a prima donna who can, play circus chops.
Yeah.
So
nobody likes the prima donna. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of brings me to a point, and that is that I'm a part of a voice share, and that's for radio stations. I don't get paid for it, but my list of clients, as far as me doing their commercials, and it has grown, and so paying my dues again. But aren't we all? But I think that what you said, Jim, is true, because someone out there is going to find you. But we talk about giving away work for free, and that's not the best thing, I know. However, getting your voice out there and getting maybe nabbed by someone someday. Well, what about the guy that was the homeless guy on the side of the road? I mean, he made it to instant fame overnight, and that's insane. I mean, but anyway, but those of us that are paying our dues, one day it will pay off, and if we're diligent and, keep it going,
No, I think a lot of people lose sight of is how do they define their own success? They, what's going to make you happy in the long run is what's that end game look like? And, a lot of the influencers out there talk about, don't worry about the end game, fall in love with the hustle and the grind, because that's, if all of a sudden you have an end game in mind, let's say you achieve it, then what? And this kind of gets into a spiritual realm of people who quote unquote retire. Okay, what's going to be your purpose now? So for success for me is, I guess, being able to, and this is not a good example because, again, I'm something I contend with, is, I guess, having a pile of cash that allows me to do things on my terms. I know what I would do after certain things kind of, build, hopefully become successful, and I can sell them. In my life, you and I talked about the other, I guess, the elephant in the room with the electrical company that I co-own with somebody. That's the game plan. That's the big plan, is to build something up, sell it off, and be able to, I don't know, build a podcast company, be in a full-time band, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So that's something that you really got to contend with and think about. What's going to really float your boat? What does success look like to you? And I don't think a lot of people know the answer to that. To that end, Jim, give to the person that is out there that's listening to the podcast, that is either just started in VO or has been in it for a number of years. Things aren't going the way they thought. They got a decent voice, but then they're on the brink of, and they shouldn't do this, but they're on the brink of giving up. Speak to that person. Right. I would say, are you having fun doing it?
Good.
And if you're having fun doing it, then keep on doing it to have fun. Don't worry so much about, I think a lot of people see the perceived successes on social media and they measure it against their own. That's a big problem. That's something to be massively aware of. But if you have fun voicing stuff and getting in front of a microphone, listening back, hopefully they're listening back to their stuff and self-critiquing. If they have enough money to hire a coach or a mentor or somebody who can give them objective advice and coaching, then that's probably the next step. Hey, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing that I could fix? To even figuring out how to market themselves better, how to engage with end clients better. To me, in any given market, I would ask them, are you listening to your local radio stations? Because in your own market, there's a prospecting field laid out right in front of you. Every single, probably 3 or 4 times an hour. If you can identify the guy at the radio station who's voicing all the commercials where something doesn't sound all that good or it sounds local, kind of hokey, and you think you can do a better job, then hit up the client. Say, there's no better email with a subject line that says, hey, I heard your ad on the radio. That will probably get a 100% open rate every single time.
Okay.
Oh,
that's great. I got to write that down. Hang on.
Yeah.
That's good.
There's a prospecting field in everybody's radio market and for voiceover. And in that email, you say, I heard your ad on the radio. It sounds like it's being voiced by the guy who is at the radio station that's kind of encumbered with voicing all the other clients on there. I was wondering if you'd actually be interested in having a market exclusive voice for what you do. And I would love to have that opportunity. Oh, and by the way, I've gone ahead and taken the liberty of reproducing a portion of that spot that you run on the radio with my voice and my production skills. Take a listen, that's attached.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I did that
want
with
to
the
get
bank.
together.
Yeah. Remember that, Mike?
Yeah, you did that just
did
recently.
That with a bank, a local bank, yeah.
Now, as long as you're in that process, you're having fun with it, and you can engage the client with, again, stuff that I learned from the car business. Hey, when can we get together on a call?
Yeah.
When do you have 5 minutes?
I don't know why a lot of clients do this. I guess they do, but on local Atlanta radio, for some reason, there's a lot of people who run their business or own their business and come in and voice their own spots, and it's horrible.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so how do you it's hard to write the email. It's like, hey, I heard your commercial and you're really not that good. Here, try this.
So, I mean, that's a little bit of
what I would do. There was a practice I put into place when I was in radio that we'd get the clients that came in and want to do their own spots, and I would take their script and use it basically as a warm up for them. And this is how another product line of videos that I had for a while was born. They would go through their script, read it. They would be all warmed up. Their mouth would be limber. We started cutting up and having fun. I would take the script away, and I would just talk to them. I would interview them. I would say,
yes.
Okay, so how long have you been doing this? Why do you do it? Who do you do it for? Is it a family business? What gets you up in the morning? What's your favorite thing you say? All the different interviewing questions that I now use on podcasts would all of a sudden in 20 minutes, in a 20-minute interview, I would have 6 spots.
Oh,
yes.
That's fantastic.
So, and they were natural. They were authentic. They were off the top of his head or their head. That's the way I would approach it. Be like, hey, I listened to your spot on the radio. I've actually, I've done it this way. Would you be open to me trying this out on you and maybe see, because then it becomes a production play. If you can produce the spots and get paid for them, and that's the way you do it, and you become the guy and you just hand it off to the radio station, that's what I mean by diversifying your skill set. If you can't be the voiceover, maybe you can be the guy who produces the spot. Because you can't get around, someone who wants to be on their own spot. It's kind of a tough thing to tell them, hey, your baby's ugly, So,
and truth doesn't matter at that point. Yeah.
What you can do is start integrating. Be like, hey, I listened to your spots. I think that your voice and my voice would actually complement each other, where you set up the relational aspect of your business and I hit them with the transactional, meaning I'm the voice that sells them whatever specials you're having that week or that month. So that's another strategy to go about it.
And if people hear my voice and it's only for, right at this moment anyway, and it's only for your product, they're going to recognize my voice and know that it's your product that we're going to be talking about. And there's that correlation. So
100% agree.
Audio branding.
Yeah.
Audio branding.
And if you don't, I think it's hard to overcome because, the radio stations will produce their spots for free as long as they buy the airtime. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to beat free. So you really have to bring that value.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We have a local guy like that. Yeah.
And it's that guy that's doing it for free is doing it for everybody else. That's the value.
Yeah.
Your market exclusivity on, the car dealer, dude, your voice, the guy who's voicing your spot is voicing your competition. Why are you okay with that? That's not cool,
Yeah.
Certainly wouldn't be cool in any other industry. That's for sure.
No. I mean, I think it's funny. I helped a guy sell display advertising or systems that do display advertising. And if you go into a dealership in their service department, typically they have a television that's playing any given, news channel or whatever. And it's like, I brought into our own dealerships and I brought this up to the management. I'm going, dude, why are we running a Toyota commercial in the service department? What do you mean? I said, well, whatever we're running back there is advertising our competition.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. Yes, it does.
It does matter. Absolutely.
You should be concerned with that. And there are things out there that can help us. We can actually sell our own products, our own service, our own parts products on a television and, keep the people who are waiting entertained. There are solutions out there and they cost like $15 a month, dude. Oh, really? Yes.
It's incredible, but people just don't think though,
No, they don't realize it. Same thing with on hold messaging. You know that when you put me on hold, it's silence. Oh no, that's a billboard you could be using to advertise to me, man.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely, and we've all voiced those kind of things, and it's like and every time I'm like, it's genius. And you're envisioning the person sitting there on hold, bored out of their minds, listening otherwise to Muzak stuff. And, you're just kind of like, hang on the line. This is good. Somebody will be right with you. And we're going to tell you about this. And it's good.
Well, one of the dealerships I'm working with, that's one of the things we're putting into play, is every month they change up the different specials and things like that, CPO specials. I'm like, guys, you need to be putting that on your hold messages. Oh, didn't even think about that. Right.
Yeah. See,
that's why you have me. So
it's value right there. Your value, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Value.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, we normally round these out. We just recently started doing these interviews, but we've been rounding these out with one final question. If you could talk to Jim McCarthy from 10 years ago, what advice or what would you tell him that possibly could make things easier or better for you as it stands today?
You're not as good at sales as you think you are.
Okay.
Get into the car. You're kind of you're kind of done with radio right now. Take your side hustles more seriously, and get into the car business now and figure out and do what you need to do there. I can promise you it'll pay out. That's what I'll say.
There you go. So, Jim, it has been an absolute pleasure. We enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise.
So, one more thing, Jim.
Yeah.
I know. Tim had said something a while back about the nice guys of people helping each other out, and I gotta give Jim McCarthy a plug here a little bit. About a year ago, when I started floating this idea of a podcast, him and I were talking on Facebook Messenger. And my wife and I were just getting, I don't know if you remember this, Jim, or not, but my wife and I were just getting on a cruise ship. And you said, hey, why don't we just talk on the phone? And we talked on the phone. It was probably about a half an hour. But it's like, my wife goes, who's that? I said, it's somebody I just met online not too long ago, and you encouraged me and you gave me good advice. And it was very good. I mean, you're the real deal, sir. I appreciate you a lot.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't mind having phone calls. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, if you want to find out more about Jim McCarthy, he's at jimmccarthyvoiceovers.com. He's got a lot of good content on there. There's links to his blog and his vlog, and his podcasts and all that stuff. So very, very good stuff. And Jim, I'm sure, like Tim, we appreciate you being on the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Guests on the Afternoon Coffee podcast stay at the Real Rest Inns and Suites, the only 2-star hotel in the tri-state area with a don't ask, don't tell policy for snakes and other exotic pets.
This episode has been made possible by our awesome intro voice, Heather Foster. You can find out more about her at heatherfostervoice.com. All music has been provided and produced by Marble Planet Productions. You can hear more about them on Instagram at Marble Planet Productions. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can either email us at afternooncoffeepodcast@gmail.com or tweet us at afternoonjava.